This week, my message is entitled Three Imperatives. And our text is 1 Corinthians 13:13, if you want to run over to there. And I'm going to read it out of the Aramaic Bible in plain English. Has a little better wording, I think. It says, "For there are these three things that endure: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." In my opinion, this is one of the finest verses in the entire Bible, but we really need to underscore the word endure, which is oftentimes translated as abideth. Now, this word is a strong word, and it's a sturdy word. It, so to speak, it gives us a sense that something is not going to just vanish into thin air. Now, in the past few months, we've seen how the word faith really means faithfulness to God, and how the word hope means trusting into the resurrection of the Messiah. We've spoken a bit about love, how God's love is an enduring love and is not subject to every wind of doctrine that blows in through our doors. Now, there was a man by the name of Henry Francis Light, and a few of us may have heard of him, be aware of him. And when he was an older man, near the end of life's journey, the doctors told him he only had a few months to live. And it was obvious that he was very tired and very ill. And one day he sat down at his desk and picked up his Bible, and it fell open to one of his favorite passages. And so he read, "But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is towards evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them." It's out of Luke 24:29. Well, he read that, and he reread it. And then suddenly he was tired no longer. He was not tired of his journey through life. Suddenly words, thrilling words, were filling his soul and his spirit, and he began to write down on paper what was filling his mind. I'm going to read you just the first verse of what it came. "Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me." And that's the first verse of the song, "Abide with me." Mr. Light, before he died just a few short weeks later, he had gained a marvelous new strength in the realization that he possessed something that would abide and endure. And for the whole world out here, that's something that they're searching for, and they can't find it. Something that will abide. You study the possessions people are after today, and you'll see that many of these are just very temporal. They don't last. Clothes, clothes don't last very long on me. I'm always catching something on a nail or a fence or something, and my wife gets mad at me because I tear up my clothes. My stylish side would try to put my old clothes somewhere, and my wife had said, "That's out of style. Get rid of it." So that's something that is hard to keep new or in style. Very temporal. Cars. Well, they're purposely designed to wear out. as are electronics and appliance. It's planned obsolescence. They don't want you to have something that is going to last a lifetime. They don't make money on not reselling things. Man purposely designs things that will not last or will not endure, and tries to collect treasures that, according to Matthew 6:19, moth and rust doth corrupt. So often we are disappointed in these things after we possess them. The joy that many things bring is often overshadowed by the realization that soon these treasures will be gone. You go down and you buy something, you bring it home, and you start to think, well, okay, now how long is this going to last? You know, how long does the new car smell last in a car before something always makes it smell bad? Every material blessing that we have will one day be lost. Physical strength will become weakness. The years will steal away our beauty. Just look at mine, it's just gone already. The most brilliant career will come to an end. The most thunderous applause by the most talented and brilliant person will become cold silence. Even if you are perfectly satisfied with your life today, you probably will not be satisfied tomorrow. That's how humans are. How much better to possess some things that will last. After a long lifetime of study and experience, one of the wisest and best men who has ever lived named 3 things within our reach that will abide. These being faith, hope, and love. And not only will they last and endure, but they give marvelous character to the people who possess them. Consider that concept called faith, also translated as faithfulness. It's a true meaning of the word. Without this faithfulness, we are not sure of ourselves, who we are, what we're doing here. It's hard for us to make decisions. We're afraid to dare, to dream, to adventure, to go beyond the pale. When a man by the name of Admiral DuPont was explaining to Admiral Farragut the reasons why he failed to enter Charleston Harbor with the rest of the fleet of ironclads, well, Farragut listened until DuPont was through, and then he said, DuPont, there is one more reason why you failed to enter the harbor. DuPont said, well, what's that? He said, well, you did not believe that you could do it. Very basic reason. He did not believe he could do it. You see, without a sense of faithfulness, a person's life becomes filled with dreary failures. And after failing to possess a sense of faithfulness, we often look at our fellow man with suspicion, cynicism. We question. We miss the comfort and stimulation of true friendships. We think the world is against us, and we lose our enthusiasm for living. Losing faith, we lose our great ideals, we lose our great purposes, and life takes on a weaker tone for us. Without faith, we become possessed with a what is the use attitude. what is the use? We have to have faith in order to overcome that attitude. So what is this faithfulness? It is firstly the ability to continue to believe and trust in certain truths no matter what happens, because you intimately know and trust God. And God is ultimately your Father. One of the grandest statements made by the Apostle Paul is simply, I have kept the faith. He did it. Life's dealt with him harshly through his years, but through it all, he held to what he believed. When one turns aside from what he knows to be true and highest and best, he is not keeping the faith. Now, faith, secondly, is illustrated when man faces up to life. And he knows that he's unable to get the best of it, and he has to turn to his higher power, God, for help in getting through life. So we have to realize that without God, we cannot get through life. For we believers, faith should mean three things about God. Number one is that God created the world. This means at the very heart of every last thing, there are principles of God to be found there. For a time, it may seem that evil will triumph, but we must remember how God said, I am the Alpha and I am the Omega, the beginning and the end. Revelations 1:8. God was at the beginning of everything, and He will be at the end of everything, and He wins. And it's not just the end of the world, it's at the end of everything that we look at. When we study in science, God is at the foundation of whatever it is that we're studying. And we have to realize that because He created that for our benefit. Now, number two here about God is that faith means God cares. There comes a time when one feels forgotten and deserted, but God cares. Man may not care, but God cares. Deuteronomy 31:8 says, And the Lord, He it is that doeth before thee, or that goeth before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. God is there. The third thing about God is that faith means God is with us and is working for us, not just watching from afar. And I've told you this before, that God isn't out on Mount Olympus or Mount Rainier or whatever mountain it is, Pilot Knob. He's here. He's within us. He cares for us. Paul says, Now abideth faith. No matter what happens, the faithfulness of God will last and endure, and it abides within us as the Holy Spirit. Now there's something else that abides and endures, and that is hope. As we talked before, hope is a big word, means big and strong. May be short, but it's a big word. But we've watered it down so that basically it just represents wishful thinking. We'll often say, well, I wish it would rain tomorrow. Wish it would get warmer. Guess it would snow. Wish this or wish that. these are just merely conjectures, not acts done due to the enacting of the messianic promises. That's what hope is. You see, believers need the firm expectation based upon the fundamental truth that God did promise a Messiah, a resurrection, a kingdom led by the Messiah in power upon the earth. And if we join into Jesus and all that He was and is and will be, we will overcome whatever the world may throw at us. That's hope. Hope is not wishful thinking that is so often a substitute for clear thinking and hard work. Hope is actions towards an end expressed. True hope leads towards constructive work within God's kingdom because you know what you have hope in. The foundation of hope is the firm belief in God. The psalmist said, "Hope thou in God?" Read on down. "Why art thou cast down, O my soul, and why art thou disquieted in me? Hope thou in God." That's Psalms 42:5. You know, a great Scottish preacher one time, long ago, once pointed out the real profanity within man is not in the swear words we use. I'm sure TJ and Carol, being in the military, heard many swear words. And we've all heard swear words. But is that the true profanity in man? Or just expressions of futility and frustration being expressed within man? These words, this Scottish preacher said, are more stupid than profane, and not even sinful. The most profane words that we use is when we say the word hopeless. He said that is the most profane word you can probably utter. And why? Because when we say a situation or a person is hopeless, what have we done? We have cut off and slammed the door in the face of God. We have told God that He is powerless. There is no situation that is hopeless with God. The real way to face life is the way of hope. Of course, there will be disappointments and setbacks because we do not always have a perfect understanding of the will of God. We are not God. Sometimes we miss it. But true hope within us sees the beautiful sunshine that comes from behind the storm. God gave us ears with which to hear because there's music to be heard. He gives us eyes to see because there's beauty to be seen. God gives us the ability to hope because there is something finer and better ahead as we keep going. Real hope will never die because it is intimately enmeshed with God. And God will never die. And now abides love. Love is the third thing that is permanent and which will sustain a life no matter what happens. The Bible goes on to say, but the greatest of these is love. And as great, as important as faith and hope are, love is even greater. So that there can be no misunderstanding, before the great apostle Paul makes this statement, he analyzes love and he shows us what it really is. And his is one of the finest analyses of love that is in existence. And let's look at carefully and consider it. Now, to begin with, Paul would have us to understand what love is not. And for a Jew, it's always been that the one who knows God most is the one who knows what God is not. And they took that to other subjects. You understand what love is because you understand what it is not. So that way it gives you a better understanding of what love really is. And it's not eloquent speaking in fancy language. Love isn't that. Just because some of our fearless leaders are great orators and can make us feel good, that doesn't mean He loves us. Neither is love the ability to see with wisdom into the future, nor is it the accumulation of knowledge. There's many people a lot smarter than me, knows a lot more than me, but that doesn't mean they love you more than me. Doesn't mean that Madame Cleo loves you when she sees into the future in her little crystal ball or whatever. Things like that are false. Those people do not love you. Love is not faith that enables one to do big things. There are many people who we say, oh, he must love his people because he does so many good things. Well, not necessarily. He may have ulterior motives for that. Love is not even the gifts that we make or the services we render. Those really aren't love. It may be an expression of other things. We just don't know. But on the other hand, we can be certain of some things that love really is. First, love is patient. Now, the dictionary says patience is many things we may not be aware of. Let me read you this. Patience is the suffering of affliction, pain, toil, calamity, provocation, or other evil with a calm, unruffled temper. And did you think of that as patience? Did you ever hear patience described as endurance without murmuring or fretfulness? Love endures long, Paul says, because love knows how to stand up to life, no matter what it is, and take it with a calm and godly spirit. Love suffereth long, and it is kind in return. It is no accident that in analyzing love, Paul connects these two activities of love together. It is possible for one to suffer negatively. One can draw into a shell, suffer alone, but kindness is a positive action. It does something constructive. Love just doesn't calmly suffer. It returns good even for evil. There are other qualities of love. Now, love doesn't envy. When something good happens to a person, love is glad. You know, when I see my neighbor get a new car or whatever, man, it makes me happy. For a lot of people, when someone sees a neighbor get something new, he goes, oh man, now I've got to go out and buy something even better. Well, we should just be happy for the blessings that somebody has. That's really love. Love doesn't boast or puff itself up. The underlying cause of boasting is the desire to be superior, to dominate those around us. That's what you see when you get into trying to stay up with the Joneses or the Smiths or whoever. You're trying to show the world you're somehow better than they are, or dominate them, keep them in subjection. Envy, boastfulness, both are qualities of one who has what? An inferiority complex. They feel somehow that they are inferior because they don't know who they are created to be. If they knew who they were created to be, none of that stuff would matter to them. Paul couples another quality of love with these two, and he says love is not puffed up. We understand what he means by people being puffed up. Their feelings are hurt. They take offense easily. We see them go off in a corner and pout. They don't want to talk to anybody. I'm offended. Well, love doesn't do that. Love takes correction. Love is not offended because we don't return evil for good. Oftentimes you see people that are puffed up. They're conceited and filled with a sense of false pride. Someone once wrote, "Are you able to suffer without complaining? To be misunderstood without being bitter? To give without receiving? To be ignored without grieving? To ask without commanding? And to love despite misunderstanding?" These are the qualities of love. Now note these five that Paul puts together in one sweeping, magnificent sentence. Love doth not behave unseemingly. It does not seek not her own. It is not easily provoked. It thinks no evil, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in what? Truth. Love rejoices in the truth, no matter where it comes. That's 1 Corinthians 13, 5 through 7. Then Paul concluded his God-inspired analysis of love with 4 positive actions of love. Love bears all things. Love believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Now, I want to tell you, the order in which these words are given to us, in my opinion, is very important to look at. Because you have 2 extremes. Let me read it again. Love beareth all things, firstly. Lastly, it endures all things. So, between those 2 words and undergirding them, he puts in love believes and hopes. These two central words save and redeem love from the bearing and the enduring. So believeth and hopeth are words with a future. Love recognizes the reality of pain, but beyond pain, love sees a victory and love sees a triumph. Love is a creative force that can bring about good out of evil. And for the greatest example of this, all we have to do is look at the cross. And we experience it in the redemptive power that flows out to us from the cross. The greatest act, in my opinion, that's ever been done. So these are the three imperatives: faith, hope, and love. And as believers, we should be enacting these every day within God's kingdom. Is there anyone here that has something that we need to pray about today? That's part of what faith, hope, and love is about, is praying for one another for the needs that we have. Anybody have anything? Well, we've got some stuff coming up. We've got Christmas activities coming up. A lot of people's going to be traveling. And let's just pray for our families, because this is a stressful time of year. You know that more people die just prior to and right after Christmas than just about any other time of the year. They're either hoping to get to Christmas or it's a letdown right after Christmas. And we need to pray for people this time of year, because it can be a time of real joy and it can be a time of real sadness. Yeah, Pat?
That makes me think of my daughter has been doing very well with her alcoholism.
Great.
But this is the time of the year it has started in the past. And so I appreciate prayers for her to continue on the path of good here.
All right.
And then her mind would be
at peace.
At peace and not feel the need for alcohol. She hasn't had any trouble since last year. So.
All right. What's her name again?
Greta.
Greta. All right.
And we can continue praying for my brother who's in the assisted living at Covers Cove.
All right. His name is?
Charles.
Charles. All right.
Tanya and her friend Lisa just lost a friend who just committed suicide, I think this last week.
All right.
And they're really confused about it.
Well, I'm telling you, suicide is rampant, and there's a whole society out here who's just hopeless and have no clue of who they were created to be. So pray for it's Lisa's friend, right?
Well, it was Tanya and Lisa's.
Tanya and Lisa's.
Our oldest daughter. And,
Okay.
I think her name was Katrina. I'm not sure.
All right.
Something like that.
All right. Well, let's just go to the Lord in prayer.